CNBC was debating Bernie's new proposal to tax billionaires during this pandemic. They're getting phenomenally wealthy, and the American people are just getting crushed. So he wants to tax them and use that money for people's health care. Wonderful idea. Well, the host here on CNBC makes a good point about corporate socialism. But the guest, a guy by the name of Kevin O'Leary, who's a venture capitalist and a reality TV star and a right-wing guy, he appears fundamentally incapable of grasping the point about corporate socialism, and his response is really interesting. Let's watch, and then I'll explain why.
Do you think that there should be higher taxes on the wealthy to pay for all of this, to pay for the unemployment insurance of the people who are ultimately actually going to be buying your products or not? There has been a remarkable corporate socialism on one end going on, and there's a big push to spend even more money, but nobody's talking about who should pay for it.
Yeah, listen, Andrew, you've stayed on this theme throughout this entire pandemic. There's always attempts to change capitalism in times of stress. There's a better way to go. There's a different system. That's never been the case in 200 years. Now, if you want to tax the rich into oblivion, that's fine. What will happen is they will go and pursue other opportunities somewhere else. It's a very competitive world out there.
He's saying, listen, you can't raise taxes on the rich because then they're going to take their talents elsewhere. Their talents? What talents? What talents? This is the same thing they said during the subprime mortgage crisis and Great Recession in 2008, 9, 10. They were arguing that, listen, bro, what happened was we bailed out Wall Street, and then these companies turned around and paid bonuses to the same people who crashed the economy. And then when everybody was like, what? You can't let that happen. People were like, listen, bro, we got to pay them bonuses to retain the talent. Retain the talent. They just crashed the world economy and bankrupted their companies. And the taxpayers rushed in and bailed them out. And they got bonuses? What are you, crazy? So he's making a similar argument like, listen, you can't raise taxes on the rich, bro. Because we gotta like, they're just gonna go elsewhere. The original point was, hey, we have this corporate socialism and nobody talks about can we afford it or who will pay for it. So, hey, should we raise taxes and maybe do some socialism for the little people? For the regular people? Whether it's unemployment insurance or UBI or whatever it might be, shouldn't we tax the wealthy and redistribute, sort of like FDR did? And instead of corporate socialism, have a little bit of socialism? And notice the response from Kevin O'Leary. He says, everybody says, better system, let's try to get a better system. Listen, there's never been a better system than capitalism in 200 years. So, the host points out accurately, this is not capitalism. We have a corporate socialist system because we privatize the profits and socialize the losses. When the economy was obliterated as a result of COVID, the government rushed in and said, here's trillions of dollars to the corporations. So that is not capitalism. That is corporate socialism, or as we call it, corporatism. And Kevin O'Leary he was fundamentally incapable of understanding the point, and he went right back to, bro, capitalism is great, and it's never been replaced with a better system in 200 years. But this isn't capitalism. In an actual capitalist system, when COVID hit and the economy tanked, then the government would have been like, there's nothing we could do. We can't bail out the corporations because that's socialism. That's corporate socialism. We're just going to take a hands-off approach. And hey, in a real capitalist system, if you fail, you fail. And all those companies would have failed. That would have been real capitalism. So, but Kevin O'Leary just acts like, and here's the point. In his mind, capitalism equals meritocracy. Capitalism equals meritocracy. So in his mind, the harder you work, the further you go under a capitalist system. And that is the system we have right now. The system we have right now is a meritocracy. And so he thinks that, like, the hierarchy as it exists is the natural hierarchy. where the strong, intelligent geniuses who are more moral than everybody else and are better than everybody else, the cream has risen to the top. They're at the top. And he just totally disregards or ignores the fact that, again, we just bailed out all the people at the top. We just gave trillions of dollars to them. The Fed was pumping $1 trillion per day into the stock market during the height of this thing. The CARES Act effectively gave $5 trillion to Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, and he can give it to whichever corporations he wants. So this really shows you how little they've actually grappled with the current state of affairs. Kevin O'Leary is still acting under the assumption that, like, the wealthy are there because they earned their spot and it's a meritocracy and, you know, people got to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and try to aspire to be like these people at the top. But he just totally overlooked the reality of the situation, which is the people at the top are getting bailed out all the time. All the time. Endless Wall Street bailouts going back to the Great Recession. Now it's not just Wall Street, it's corporate bailouts across the board. Boeing, giving them billions of dollars and they turn around and lay people off anyway. And he just ignores that. And so he has no real response to our current system. It seems like he's perfectly comfortable with corporate socialism, but he balks at socialism. And, I mean, that's the problem. That's the problem, right? If you're going to do bailouts, the bailout should be bottom up. The bailout should be of the people. The bailout should be of the homeowners. But we always do it the opposite in this country. The government bails out the corporations and the wealthy. And really the main reason they do that is because those are the people who gave them their campaign contributions. So they're beholden to them because it's a corrupt system. But again, I'm just floored at how this guy who's a venture capitalist and a reality TV star, there's a guy who was on Shark Tank, there's a guy who has defended our extreme levels of income and wealth inequality. He just seems fundamentally incapable of grasping the fact that this isn't even capitalism. This isn't even capitalism. In a capitalist system, you just let it fail if something goes wrong. Now, by the way, that would also be, just so everybody understands, that would also be a total disaster. To actually be hardcore anarcho-capitalists when the economy takes a sharp downturn, you're going to exacerbate the problem, and it would be chaos, it would be mayhem, it'd be really bad. Like double or triple or quadruple the unemployment rate, okay? Like, it would be so bad if we did the pure capitalist approach. But, you know, I also think the corporate socialist approach, the corporatist approach, is really bad as well. What they should have done is if they were going to bail people out, you should have bailed out from the bottom up. But again, if you do that, guys like Kevin O'Leary scream, socialism, scary, bad, wrong, Venezuela, Marxism, loud noises and stuff and things. But when you bail out the wealthy and the corporations, what does he say? He says, oh, that's just capitalism. So they try to grandfather in the corporate socialism to capitalism and act like that's par for the course and that's fine. But if you do socialism for the regular people, oh my God, we can't have that. You see how the game is skewed? They always act like the bailouts of the wealthy and the corporations. Well, we had to do it. We had no choice. See, that's what I would say if I was in charge and I start bailing out the little guy. I had to do it. What do you mean? I had to give everybody a $2,000 a month UBI. I had to give everybody Medicare for all. I had to give everybody free education. I had to. I had to give everybody a living wage. I had to. I had no choice. What are you going to do? Leave the system the way it was? What a mess it was. Anyway, at least the host at CNBC, you know, is being pretty fair and upfront about this stuff. But the guests are exactly how I'd expect them to be.